Many farmers see their soil get worse every year. Soil that was once fertile no longer produces a good crop. Much of our soil is degraded and eroded because the rain runoff carries soil to rivers and wind blows it away. In this video, we will learn to manage soil to avoid losing it, to keep it more fertile, and to produce more. When we burn, many of the nutrients go up in smoke. Before plowing, the soil is covered with dried plants, which protect it from erosion. When we plow, the soil is broken, naked, and exposed to the sun and the wind. When soil is plowed, it loses moisture and nutrients. The more we plow the soil, harrowing it, and disking it, the more the soil is broken up, becoming softer, easier to wash away and erode. If we plow, we break the soil, and the water in it evaporates. Unplowed soil keeps moisture in dry years. In unplowed soil, maize plants are stronger, and the wind does not knock them over so easily, so the plants stay green. The roots grow deeper. In unplowed soil, the dry plants stay on the soil and protect it. Here, we see two piles of earth. One is covered in dry plants and the other is not. When we pour water on them, see the difference. The earth with dried plants is protected. The earth without the plants loses more water and more soil. To preserve the soil, the first step is to leave the cut weeds, crop stubble, and all of the rubbish on the soil. You do not have to burn it before planting. The stubble from earlier crops and the rubbish hold the moisture, which helps the maize to produce in dry years. This rubbish helps the soil to be more fertile. When it rots, the rubbish improves the soil. The rubbish is fertilizer and it holds lots of water, so the soil does not dry out as much. If there is a lot of crop stubble and it gets in your way, you can cut it with a machete. The important thing is not to burn it, but to let it rot. That way, we harvest more. Let's look at two practices, minimum tillage and no tillage. With minimum tillage, you need to use the tractor a bit to break the dried plants and work them into the soil. To do minimum tillage, you can go over the field once with a tractor and a disc harrow.
Mire, yo en mi parcela pasé en 3 tareas. Pasé la rastra una sola vez. En las 3 tareas me costaron 150.
In my field, half of an acre is used to disc harrow once. That cost me 150. I felt that I could afford that well, because if I use another machine and plow it more, they will charge me more. It will be expensive. I would spend more. So one looks out for the economic situation. And the rubbish, as we can call it, we may call it rubbish. For our land, it is organic fertilizer, and the earth can make use of it.
El que se aprovecha en la tierra.
Another way to do minimum tillage is with a subsoiler, a heavy tool that breaks the soil without turning it over.
En el tiempo de invierno nuestras tierras se compactan y tienden a endurarse mucho. Entonces venimos y pasamos el subsolador.
In the rainy season, our soil gets compacted and hard, so we go over it with the subsoiler. And then we use a disc harrow. After that, we plant. So we do not turn the soil over, we just loosen it. The advantage of not turning the soil over is that we keep the organic matter. So we keep the organic matter for our crops. The land becomes more fertile every day. It becomes richer. With this, we avoid burning and turning the soil over, because when we turn it over, we bring up sterile soil from below. So with this tool, the fertile earth stays on top and only gets loosened.
Ya quemar y voltear la tierra, porque volteando la tierra nosotros sacamos la tierra pues que es estéril desde abajo. Entonces con este aparato la tierra se queda, lo que es lo fértil, ¿verdad? Se queda por encima, nada más se afloja.
We have seen minimum tillage. Now let's look at no tillage. Unlike minimum tillage, where we work the soil a little, with no tillage we do not work the soil at all. Many of our fields cannot be plowed with tractors because they're on hillsides or are very rocky. But even if we can use a tractor, it's better not to. Just put the rubbish in a row and plant a furrow between the rubbish and the crop stubble. You can plant with a planting stick. You can plant at the same distances and with the same number of seeds as if you had plowed the soil. We have seen the advantages of no tillage and of minimum tillage. But if we do not plow, there can be a lot of weeds. It is often necessary to control the weeds with an herbicide. We use herbicides to control weeds and to harvest more beans. If we do not control the weeds on time, more weeds can come up. It is important to control the weeds in the first 25 days of the crop's life. After that, the maize can fend for itself. We use pre-emergent herbicide to avoid weeds, and so our crop comes in clean land and we get a better harvest. About every 5 years, the soil becomes too hard, and it is good to plow it. If cattle have grazed on the field and have packed the soil down with their hooves, you can plow the soil to make it softer, so that the water gets in and so that the stubbles rot. Let's review what we have learned in this video. No tillage and minimum tillage help to protect the soil from erosion, so that the rain does not wash the soil away. The soil becomes more fertile and holds moisture. If we do not burn the dried plants, the rubbish also helps the soil to become more fertile, to stay moist, and not to wash away. With minimum tillage, you only plow once. You do not plow and harrow. With no tillage, you should use herbicides to keep the weeds from sprouting. When the soil is very compacted by the years or by the prompting of cattle, you can plow again. With minimum tillage and no tillage, you will not see an improvement in the first year, but you will see it after the third year, when the soil is more fertile and does not wash away. No tillage and minimum tillage help us to have healthier, more fertile soil and to harvest more. There will be more food, more to sell, more money, and a better standard of living.